Oh, okay. Yeah, can you hear me? Is it good? Okay. So, are we good? Okay. So, hello everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Cyril Ferlico-Delbecq, and I'm working at INRIA Lille. And today I will present you science and data manipulation in Faro. And I will talk especially about three projects that are Polymath, Faro AI, and DataFrame. So, a quick summary. I will start to talk about a little about the history of those projects. Then I will present what is new since last ESUG, because those projects were already presented during some previous ESUGs. And I will talk about the current state of this project and where we are going. So, as I said, I will start by the history of those three projects that are Polymath, that is the one that is here since the longest time, DataFrame, and Faro AI that are more recent. Polymath is a computation library for Faro. It is similar to NumPy or SciPy for Python or SciRuby for Ruby, for those who know them. And it contains a lot of stuff such as random generators, distribution, specialized math structures, differential equation, and so on. It was originally called SciSmallTalk and was present in Squeak. And Serge Stinkwich did an effort to port this project in Faro, and because it solves a lot of basic needs for a lot of projects. More recently, we had a project that is called DataFrame that arrived. DataFrame, it's a tabular data structure composed of columns, rows, cells, but it's really interesting because it brings a lot of algorithms to do data manipulation, and it is used heavily in data science. It is similar to DataFrame in other libraries, such as Pandas in Python or DataFrames in Julia. And it was originally created during a Google Summer of Code in 2017. And since then, two other students worked on it during their Google Summer of Code. And the last piece I'm presented is Faro AI. Faro AI is the most recent since it was created in 2020, and it started as an agglomeration of some students' projects. The goal is to implement classical machine learning algorithms, but without going into deep learning. It now has a lot of algorithms such as K-mean, linear regression, n-grams models, and so on. I'm presenting those three projects together because they can be three independent libraries and they're able to work on their own. But in fact, the majority of contributors to this project are the same, and they are used by the same group of users. Because in general, when you will do some AI algorithms, you will need to do data manipulations, and it's easier to do with data frames. And AI requires some mathematical algorithms that can be provided by Polymath. And it is the reason why we are presenting the three together, is that we are working closely together. Even if they are separated projects, we like to think of them as a triplet. So, since last ESUG, there has been some new developments on the three sides, and I will now present them. On Polymath, the main thing that evolved is the modularization of Polymath. Polymath has been developed as one big project that contained everything, and when we develop our own project, we don't necessarily need a full mathematical library. Taking an example, there is a project that is called CoreMass, and that was using only the random generators from Polymath, and it had to bring everything. So we are working on splitting this project into smaller projects so that you don't have to bring everything when you need only one part. And on that side, the first step we took was to extract the data structures such as matrix or vectors and random generators. We are currently trying to extract also, for example, the distributions, and we cleaned a lot of internal dependencies. While doing that, we also tried to make the CI more robust because it had a lot of random failures, for example, and things like that. And we think that if we want our project to be stable, we need a good CI. We tried to align some conventions with FarOAI. We did diver cleanings and bug fixes, and we brought the Faro 11 compatibility. On FarOAI, the things that evolved the most were data manipulation. During last episode, we already had multiple algorithms to work on AI. But one missing piece was data manipulation. And when I tried, for example, to follow some tutorials on AI, I was always missing some things on that side. So we really pushed that to have, for example, data partitioners to be able to create test sets, to have inputters that are here to help to fill missing values that we can have in our data, to have encoders that allows us to standardize our data, or normalizers to use common scales in our projects. We also try to uniformize the projects of FarOAI and to document them to make it easier for the users to find what they need and to know how to use them. The graph library has been recently updated by Sebastian that presented earlier today. We invested in the speed also to speed up some of the algorithms because we saw some feedback on Discord, for example, that some people tried to use the algorithms, but they were too slow compared to other languages, and they gave up because of that. So we are investing in this aspect, and we did multiple cleanings and bug fixes. On data frame, as I said, we also had a priority on the speed up, because as for FarOAI, we had a lot of feedback saying that it works well when we have a small or medium data set, but when it's starting to grow, the time are becoming way too long. So we invested a lot in that aspect. We invested also to have a better integration with the other collections of Faro so that you can use your dataset as any other collection in Faro. We invested also in visualizations on data frame because when people are using data frame, often they want to try to find some things in their data, some correlations or things like that. So we develop some new visualization such as scatter matrix or histograms, things that can help to visually find those correlation and the important data in their data set. And we also made an integration with the FarOAI data processing algorithms libraries, as I told just before, so that we can have a good speed with those libraries. Because when we developed them, it was working well with the collection of Faro, but it was pretty slow with data frame. So we did some specialization for data frames so that it can work as fast as other collections in Faro. And this year, we have also a Google Summer of Code student working on this project. That is Joshua here. And he has been doing a great work. And we hope that he will stay in the community after his Google Summer of Code. During the first part of his Google Summer of Code, he implemented multiple missing features because he was using, before knowing Pharo, the data frame from Python or from Julia. And when he came to Pharo, he saw that we had some missing features that were important. So he focused on that, like having better sorting, having better data manipulation methods, managing better the missing values, etc. And the second part of his Google Summer of Code, he focused on improving the inspector of data frames. Because as I said before, when we start to work on an AI project, often we need to explore our data to find some correlation, etc. And so the inspector is pretty important. So he pushed, for example, the search in the data, or being able to sort the data in the inspector, and so on. Now, I would like to get to the third part of the presentation that I call Toward a New Stage. And I would like to start to say that at the origin, the data manipulation and AI algorithms that were brought into Pharo were done by students. As I said, for example, DataFrame was started as Google Summer of Code, and most of the contributors that were also Google Summer of Code students. The first AI algorithms were also student projects, and that showed us that there was some traction toward those fields. But the problem when we have student projects is that often they are new, they don't have the experience, so their code is not the best code possible. Often they worked for a time, like an internship or a Google Summer of Code, and then they do not necessarily maintain their project. The speed is not always great. So we saw that those projects were not really used after the students were implementing them. Also, about the traction, as Alexandre Bergal presented, he was interested in the agile artificial intelligence, and he really pushed that a few years ago, and that really inspired us to say, okay, there is something to do, and so we are answering the call. In the FREF team of INRIA, that was Hermod before, we had multiple engineers that worked recently on those fields. There was, for example, Hernan, that is somewhere, that is here. There was Sebastian, that presented earlier today, and that is here. Olex is working also on those projects, and now I'm working also on those projects. And our first goal is to go from student projects that are not necessarily maintained, that are not necessarily usable, to bring them toward really usable projects. And if you are using those projects, or if you tried to use them, we will be really happy if you could tell us what you think, to give us your feedback. Have you tried them? Did you keep using them, or did you stop because there was not enough speed, not enough features? And did the recent evolutions go toward what you think can be the good direction for this project? So if you have some feedbacks to do not hesitate to come to talk to us. Yes.
Right. My first question is shared for you and Alex. So, what kind of advice can you give the community for testing these kind of projects? Because most of these projects they rely on non-determinisms, and I don't know, what can you share, especially for the agile, from the agile perspective?
can say like, so one of the things I can say is that like testing deep learning models is extremely difficult. And there is whole techniques about how to do it. So it's not just like it's low hanging fruits. So this is extremely complex, and you will not use unit testing model. Yeah.
I can continue this answer from the perspective of RAI. Thank you. So from the perspective of RAI, and I have right now the same problem in Formas, it is not always easy to test things because of the randomness. So what we want to do also, we want to make sure that in every algorithm we have the possibility to fix the random seed, to fix it on the level of the entire library, to fix it for a specific algorithm. So like that you can have the entire reproducibility and you can make sure that your tests are working correctly. But then of course there are many other questions, because like with fuzzy testing that Gisha was presenting, in AI it is also very important to explore the entire space. So maybe fixing the random seed and testing it on one specific input is not always the correct way. Maybe we also need to explore approaches like that, where we can explore the entire space and see what are the edge cases, what are the cases that are not giving the result that we expect.
Do you know if there are any commercial products or projects outside there? Because AI is a fuzzing word, and I don't, or buzzing word, I don't know what is the advantage of using Smalltalk or Faro for doing that. I'm working in the industry of renewable energies in the whole energy sector, and AI is such a word, and everyone uses it and so on. But
my question is related. So yeah, how this can be like the, let's say, building blocks for the unexplored space. So now that AI is everywhere, and Faro has like these building blocks, how can we use Faro to explore what is not there yet? So, or how can we interact with other ecosystems?
Okay, so first about do we know if those algorithms are used for commercial products? Personally, I don't know a commercial product that is using it, and it was what we saw. There was not when we started to have those projects, there were not a lot of real cases that in the world, and mostly because when we saw on Discord that when people were trying, either they were missing some features, or the projects were not maintained, or the speed was not good enough. And it's the reason why we focused on the speed, the stability of those projects, and on implementing the missing features. And we hope that now we are getting in a state where it will be possible to have commercial products on them. And yeah.
Was related with the interaction between these building blocks and the rest of the ecosystem, or external ecosystems that are not far away.
I know that some people tried to connect to external things. I saw a binding, for example, for ChatGPT, I think, and I saw some people doing a Python bridge to call the Python libraries. But our goal was to try to have the implementations in Faro to avoid ping pong with, for example, having to run a Python and always have to communicate. So we took the approach in Faro AI at least to focus on implementing the algorithm in Faro.
It's not working.
Oh, no, it's not working. Okay. For example, when you use Python in AI project, you often use multi-threading to accelerate the time. And it is my understanding that Faro has no multi-threading, and I guess. How do you work around that?
No, Faro does not have multi-threading, but we are exploring gaining speed by we want to rely on some other libraries such as LAPACK to speed up our algorithm. It's not something that is already done, but we have a proof of concept and we just need some time to be able to push that. Yeah, and
Sorry, I have to complement the answer, but in fact, the standard implementation of Python is not multi-threaded either. So, like what I said, for example, bind to other libraries, to bind, for example, to a C TensorFlow library that is actually multi-threaded. That is actually what Python does.
Yes. And there are many ways to parallelize machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms. For example, you can do it on the level of GPU, you can do it on the level of multi-threading, but mostly we don't do this at far level. We see this as more low-level things that we want to delegate to other libraries that can provide, for example, the CUDA, the GPU acceleration, and then we use them to implement the high-level algorithm thing that you can debug, that you can explore, that you can see how it works in Pharo, but then the low-level stuff will happen elsewhere.
Multi-image?
Yes, maybe multi-image. So we can explore. You see, for us, this parallelization is the topic that we didn't target yet, but we can see different possibilities for doing it, and we are indeed very interested to see how these things can be done.
Okay. So thank you, everyone.